Hello, Spiritual Collective. So, this is a non-reading video. I may do a reading after this, depending on my voice. My throat is a little messed up at the moment, so we shall see. So, this video really is about how serious, I don't know even if that is the right word, that is a right word. There's a few words to describe serious, how devoted, and I'll get into that. You really have to be in order to really authentically follow a balanced occult path. Okay? Now, despite what you may have heard, if you're really in tune, if you're really delving beyond, if you're really going deep into wherever, right, you're going to get in touch with a lot of things, a lot of energies, and it's going to make your life a little odd. You have to be ready for this, okay? Because again, it's not all love and light, right? Let me move this over. Hecate here. It's not all love and light. It's not all, of course, it's not all darkness. But with the light comes the darkness and vice versa. If you're really going deep and you're really connected, you're going to see and experience things that are not light, fluffy, and soft. Okay? You will experience psychic attacks. You will experience possibly bodily pains. You will experience things that you see on the other side. Luckily for me, it takes a lot to really frighten me when it comes to meditation. Like, it takes a lot to really I find a lot of the things that are darker to be more I find it to be a bit magnetic. I find it to be pulling. It pulls me in sometimes. What's another word? I'm searching for the correct way to put this. I feel drawn to these things. And again, some of them can be off-putting. Some things that might put off other people don't really put me off as much. So if I were to have a very lucid or a very potent dream of encountering certain things, I might not be as put off as another person. However, it's not to say I haven't had some very disturbing dreams. Again, I don't always have bad dreams, but I do have a lot of dreams that do revolve around crime, executions of different periods of time. You know, this can be very gruesome, depending on, disturbing content that I see in these dreams. Meditations, not so much. I have seen things in meditation in my third eye. Not as disturbing. I think the most disturbing thing is seeing, like, distorted faces. Sometimes you'll see that. But when it comes to dreams, that's where the real stuff begins, right? And I've had some really wonderful experiences. But you do have to be ready to experience the more intense dark stuff. Not everybody is going to experience the same things, though. Some people may be drawn to have more of the lighter end of the spectrum when it comes to dreams, and I've had that as well. But again, everyone's different, so experiences may differ, but you will experience the darker, more intense side of things, and you have to be ready for that. It's not something that you just need to dabble in because you're just, oh, I'm just curious. It's a calling. Okay? There are people who feel drawn to it. I don't know if they really feel drawn to it. I mean, there's some people who want to do a couple of spells, and like, oh yeah, manifestation, and ooh, let's pull some tarot cards, and that's it. But it's much more than that. It's much way deeper than that. You're dealing with consciousness. You're dealing with other planes of existence. You're dealing with entities. You're dealing with personalities. You're dealing with yourself, inner and outer. You're dealing with the collective unconscious. You're dealing with your own subconscious mind. There's a lot going on, right? And so you're going to experience a lot of different things. And so you have to be ready for this. And again, you have to be ready for the attacks. And you have to be ready for high strangeness. You have to be ready for high strangeness. And now, and I'm gonna say, like, it got me for a minute too. Like, sometimes the high strangeness would, especially around, not really the high strangeness, but high strangeness around psychic attacks would really piss me off. Okay, that is gonna happen. Okay, high strangeness, weird stuff, coincidences, synchronicities, thoughts. You may feel that there's telepathy going on. You may feel that other people are doing telepathy on you. You may feel these things, okay? And these things exist. And we are not taught these things growing up, right? We're really not. We're probably punished for these things depending on our situation, depending on our home life. Now, as time goes on, and depending where you're at, this may not be the case. I mean, I know people who say they were raised in their by their parents, and they were witches, or they were open to, you know, spirituality and things like that. So things do change. However, a lot of people grow up, and it's not even just with the spiritual minded people, it's with people just being like, if a child is too in their imagination, even if it's not hurting anyone, even if they're doing something, but they are caught in their imagination, but they're still whatever, you know, you get a lot of things, like you get called names by your parents, by other people, negative. I know I was very well adept at scrying of the soft view, the type of staring and viewing you have to do in order to scry, in order to really get visions, in order to see auras, that sort of soft focus. My mom would just go off the rails. She didn't like it. And she'd get violent, among other things. Now, when it came to me being lost in my mind, it was just like, oh, space cadet, or like some little comment or nickname, so it wasn't as violent. But with other things, you know, would be violent. And, you know, anything that's seen as, even if it's not a religious family, anything that's seen out of the box or out of the ordinary. Even like, let's say you have very quote-unquote logical, whatever, atheistic parents, it's still going to be that, like, you need to live in reality type of thing, even with very young children. And it's disturbing if you think about it. So we're not really taught these things. We're not really prepared. So when these things come on us, even if we're delving and we're going deep, they still catch us by surprise. It still happens. But it takes someone who's dedicated, who's willing to keep going when things get weird, when things get rough, when things happen like that. because you probably always had a calling. It wasn't a couple of videos you saw on the internet or a book you saw on the shelf. It was something that you've always been called to ever since you were young. I've always had very vivid dreams since I was young. That was one thing that I realized early on. I'm like, oh, I have really vivid dreams. And then I was able to work with this in ways. I really wasn't educated in a lot of the lucid dreaming and dream magic stuff. That comes later, that came later. Because again, we're not taught this. We're taught to stay away from it. You know? So anyways, it's a calling that you should have, that you've always had, pushing you forward, because it will get tough. Especially when the psychic attacks come. And the psychic attacks, like again, when I was saying that I was brought up in a less than desirable environment when it comes to that. You know, hold on 1 second. I always had this calling, pushing me forward. And I delved in secret. I learned a lot about different cultures, a lot of different mysticisms, practices that I found fascinating. And I gravitated towards them. But what was I gonna... Okay, I feel like I got off track. What I was going to say was... with the attacks, when I was raised less than desirable when it came to really experiencing magic. That was just the first stages of being attacked, right? You're attacked by your family. You're attacked by your friends. And it doesn't have to be, you know, what we think of as spiritual attacks, although it often is spiritual as well, as, you know, because that's the law, right? Spiritual and physical, right? But at any rate, it might manifest as a physical, psychological attacks, but it's still the result. It affects your spirituality. It affects you. And as you go on, then you start noticing, the more you go into your spirituality, the more you start noticing how people change and how people are influenced and how people react. Like, you start noticing these weird subtle changes. So there is something greater going on. But see, you notice these things, but you keep going. So you have to be strong, and you have to be ready, and you have to be willing. And for those of us who are on a balanced path, those who are serious, really serious about diving into the depths, be ready. Because there's things in the depths that are intense. You know? But it's worth it for those who are called to go deep, who are called to go beyond, to go to these depths. Okay? And you'll know because it's always been with you. It's been a calling that's always been inside of you. And you've had certain gifts that you've always had. But yeah, I just wanted to really just mention that because it got spawned by a dream I had last night, and I just realized, like, there are times when I have these darker dreams, and I mean, these are things that happen in real life. Of course, there's some symbolism. There's some symbolic stuff within the dreams that you know, happen too. But the reality of these really intense crimes against people that happen, right? And horrible things that happen. You know? So you go into the dream state and you experience those. I've experienced things that people have gone through in their death. I've helped people cross over in dreams. There's no time and space, right, when it comes to these things. And I may go into that in another video. This is really complex. I don't want to get into it in this video. There are things that you can do. And it's not going to be every dream. It's not going to be every meditation. But it's going to be throughout your life that you have these things happen. But you have to, what I'm saying is you have to be ready for the not so fun and fluffy and pretty things that happen, that you'll experience in these other states or in the real life. And the weird things and the high strangeness and the weird synchronicities and the changes that you see in people affected when things either enter them or they have a change or they're triggered by you in some way. There's some weirdness about it, and it can be disturbing. It really can be. But you have to be ready for it. And that's not to say that people who don't practice magic experience some of these things. But it's going to be amplified if you do. And you have to be ready. And you will grow from it as long as you stay strong. You stay resolute and you keep moving forward. And you don't succumb to letting it change you. It will expose who you are. Trust me, these psychic attacks, constant psychic attacks, will expose your shadow. They'll show you exactly how dark you can be. And there's nothing wrong with that. You need a strong shadow side. You don't want to act on some of the thoughts that your strong shadow would want to enact, but you can understand this part of yourself, this part of your shadow. Embrace it and see what it has to teach you. And this is a video, again, the whole shadow thing is a whole video on its own. But yeah, be ready to to meet your shadow side. And really, if you have a strong light side, you're going to have a strong shadow side, and vice versa. And I think that's one thing that really intimidates people who are authentically on a spiritual path, a person who is really in tune with power and psychic power and witchcraft. I think the one thing that really scares people about witches is their intense emotions, their intense power behind these emotions, and what they could do to harness these what they could do if they harness these emotions, which again is another video. But I'll stop here. I just wanted to take a little chat about that. Be ready to embrace the dark side along with the light, because that's what you're signing up for. So, blessings.